أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أيتها الأخوات أيها الإخوة أحييكم بتحية الإسلام تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I really want to thank you in French, merci, for welcoming us here in Kuala Lumpur and this organization, the One Heart Creative Solution, that has organized this evening in such a beautiful venue. And thank you for being so numerous here this evening. It has been a pleasure for us, my family, to be here over the last few days and to attend many different meetings and gatherings and discussions. And as I am always repeating, I was told that you are 2,500 people this evening, and it's huge, and it's nothing. The Prophet ﷺ told us from the very beginning, a time will come when you are going to be numerous, millions, and then your impact on the world will be like nothing. Because we are not counting how many are believing, we are dealing with the quality of our faith. So by looking at this room, now I stopped. I'm quite old now and too old to think that numbers are creating change. At the end of the day, what is important coming here a few days before Ramadan and starting of fasting during Ramadan is for every one of us here in this room to ask herself, to ask himself what we are doing and in which way we are following in the footsteps of the Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam. So this is what I'm here for with you, really to try to come back to some of the essential teachings and lessons we can get out of the Messenger's life, والسلام, and to try to translate this as much as you can, as much as we can all together in our daily life and in our society. Because the verse that was quoted just before, it's an important one, but it's, as I'm repeating when we translate it, from Arabic to Arab minds and from Arabic to English, it's conditional. كنت خير أمة أخرجت للناس, you are the best community. تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر, it is a condition. In as much as you commend what is good and you forbid what is bad. It's not you are the best community because of your blood. It's not you are the best community because you claim you are Muslims. It should be visible. The best community should be visible out of our behavior as Muslims. And then Allah has the secret of our hearts, وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, comes at the end. If you follow the logic of what is known in Allah's knowledge, تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ should come first. كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, because تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ first, and then you do good. No, Allah is telling us in front of facing the people, you are the best community, and the first thing is what is visible by the people around you as witnesses. كنتم لتكونوا شهداء على الناس, in order for you to be witnesses before people means you do what is right and you prevent what is wrong. And then Allah knows why. وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. And you are doing this because you believe in Him and you know that you are going back to Him. So if you, sometimes the way we read the Quran is very superficial. And this is why I liked the topic this evening, because coming back to the Quran means for us to come back to the way the Prophet ﷺ was understanding the Quran, living by the Quran, implementing the teachings of the Quran in his daily life. In fact, he is the best introduction to Islam. He is the best introduction to the Quran. He is the one who is helping us to get the meaning, to get the message, to get the way we have to implement the message in our daily life, and then to be what we should be, the best community and bearing witness before people to the message of the last messenger, to the last message that was sent to humanity by the one, the creator, the only God, La ilaha illahu. So when we come to this, we come back now to the understanding and something that we keep on repeating when it comes to the Prophet ﷺ. And beyond this, we come and say, okay, it's the best introduction to Islam, the best understanding, and through him you will get the right message in which way we have to contribute to the world. Because at the end of the day, this last message came to the Prophet ﷺ not only for the Muslims, it came for the worlds, the visible and the invisible worlds. So it's a message that is stronger than us. It's not for us only. We have a human responsibility to live by it and to spread it around through our words, through our deeds, and through our behavior with our fellow human beings. And Allah is telling us this. It's telling us something which is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. الْإِنسَ means all human beings, and jinn is what we don't see, is the visible and the invisible. Everything is here to worship him. So knowing that we are here to worship him, al-ins is not only the Muslimun, it's the human beings. And the human beings, some by choice, all of the human beings, by the way, till they reach the age of reason, are worshipping God. You know this, that the children before becoming, this is the fitrat Allah allati fatara an-nas alayha, is the natural state of human being, is when you are a child, you don't know, you don't have a conscience, you don't have freedom of conscience because you are naturally worshipping Allah. Your kids, before starting to pray, when they reach the age of 13 or 14 or even 10, before praying, they pray. And even the kids of the people who do not believe in God, we know that the natural state of humanity is to pray naturally. And even the elements in nature and the creation are celebrating Allah. النجم والشجر يسجدان means that the trees and the stars, everything is worshipping. And then it comes to us a state where we take a decision. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. And this is the freedom. لا إكراه في الدين. The one who wants to believe, he or she can believe, and the one who doesn't want to believe, she or he can reject the truth. So it's a state of freedom. Now, when we come with this understanding that it's, thank you, I have it here. When it comes to this understanding is that the mission is beyond our responsibility, within our responsibility with our own self, within our community, is with the human brotherhood. Our brothers and sisters in humanity have a right on the last message. And once a sheikh was asked about what is going to happen to people who never heard about Islam. Are they going to be in jail, in hell, or are they going to be in paradise? What is happening with people who didn't know? And his answer was, I don't know about their fate, but I know about our responsibility not having reached them or not having spread the message. So to reach out is a responsibility. Before asking about the fate of the people, are they going to be condemned, ask yourself where you are in the picture. Are you doing the job or not? Are you doing what you have to do? It's very easy to condemn others. while you are not doing what you have to do. Start with your own responsibility and leave Allah decide about their fate and their destiny. It's not of your business. It's not what you have to do. It's not what you have to be. You are not asked to decide and to talk about what is going to happen for others, but your responsibility first. Now, having said that, we come back to the Prophet ﷺ, and we hear again and again the verse saying, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. You have in the messenger, you have in the Prophet, peace be upon him, the best example. And you have to follow this example. Why? Because in fact, he was translating the very meaning of the Quran in his daily life. And when the Sahaba went to Aisha radiallahu anha and said about him, how was he? What was his specificities and in which way, what was his character and in which way he was dealing with the Quran, she answered, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. He was in fact the translation embodying all the teachings, the lessons coming from the Quran. He was a living Quran, in fact translating the principles. So for us, it's important to get this from the very beginning. But there is something which is very important in his presence in history, in human history. Because as we understand, we need to have this very deep in our heart and very deep in our mind. This understanding that why, in fact, Allah, God, sent the last messenger after all the messengers. What is the essence of this message and the link that is created between God, Allah, the only God, La ilaha illahu, and this humanity. And we have to understand this because it changed everything. Some of you here have heard about Islam, have heard about our rules and al-ahkam, al-halal, wal-haram, in a way where the relationship with Allah is very much based on be scared. Be, the profoundness of your faith is assessed on the way you are scared of Him. And very often we use stories to make us feel that be very aware that He is looking at you everywhere. You can lie at me, but you cannot lie to God. He's going to know. And we use stories that are right. It's true that, for example, if you are doing things at my back as a father, as a mother, God is going to see what you are doing. But the most important thing is not to start with Allah seeing our mistakes, but Allah close to our intentions, and it's not the same. It's not the same. And the Prophet ﷺ was always starting, remember, Allah is close to your intentions, and your intentions might be good even though the people can't see them. And this is where al-ihsan, the highest level of faith. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That you worship God as if you were seeing Him, because if you don't see Him, He's seeing you. This hadith, which is an authentic hadith, is not telling us if you do something wrong, He's watching you. No. This verse, the sincerity, the highest level is be with your life, be with yourself as if He's with you and talk to Him. Be in touch with Him always. He's not monitoring your mistakes. He's welcoming your intentions. He's welcoming your quest. How can we get this? To another verse coming from the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. The Prophet ﷺ is a mercy. He is not a judge. He's a mercy. He's welcoming our intention, our quest for truth, and not being the one only looking at our mistakes and faults. And this is where the Islamic education should start. To start with this dimension, which is not Allah, you have to be scared. Even if you are not scared, it means that something is missing in your faith. No, you have to be loving. And this is the third step now. In my introduction, if you come to this understanding, is وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And then what is important is to understand that it's rahmatan lil alamin. It's within the community, and as I was saying, beyond the community. Lil alamin, the visible and the invisible. And you have to be serious about this, because in this room, there are not only visible beings. You know, when you enter a mosque and you just celebrate, you say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. When you enter your home, you are not only paying tribute to the people you see. And even if there is nobody in your room or in your flat, in your apartment, say Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You are greeting the invisible, and the invisible is protecting you or destroying you. This is why when you enter a house where the people are worshiping, you can feel it. There is a feeling. And when the people are forgetting Allah, you can feel it. It's something which has to do with spiritual dimension. And when you enter a mosque, it's not only this is a place when we worship, this is a place where we are prostrating, we are worshiping the one, and you feel it. There is something special. Make your house a special environment. You know, even when you say Salamu alaikum, when you pray and say Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, wa salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You know, when you end your prayer, you are giving, your salams to the people on your right and people on your left, but not only. It's the angels, as you know, on your right and on your left. And it reminds me of a story of my father, rahimahullah. He brought this from Pakistan, which is a good story. And once someone was asking a sheikh and say, who am I saluting when I say Salamu alaikum on my right and on my left? I said, the angel that is writing what you are doing good on your right, and the angel who is writing what you are doing bad on your left. So he got this, and he went to pray and say Salamu alaikum, and then he said, you know, not going to give you a salam. And by the way, that you know that on your right is sunnah, it's fard, and your left is sunnah. Okay, anyway, it's better to do both. But the point is that you are giving a salam to the invisible as well. And we have to be full of this, because this is the way the Prophet ﷺ also was dealing with this. So ar-Rahmah is something which is essential. It's a message that is a message of mercy, a message of welcoming, a message that is for the world, for us and beyond us. And this is the way you have to follow the Prophet ﷺ. And there is another verse that is also helping us to get it right. Because at the end of the day, in the way we are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why do we follow the Prophet ﷺ? And how do we should we follow the Prophet ﷺ? There is a verse which is very interesting. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِ يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Which is putting exactly the connection with he's the model, he's helping us to love God, he's helping us to understand this is a rahmah, this is mercy, and the point is very clear in this verse. If you love God, say, if you love God, follow me, God, Allah will love you. And by the way, for all those people who think that the only way to speak about Allah in English is to say Allah in English, this is a minority position among the scholars. When you speak English, you can say God, as long as in your intention there is only one God. So don't play with words, it's clear. God in English, Dieu in French, and Allah in Arabic. And even the people which is, I don't know how this story came to you in Asia, where, for example, for centuries, the Coptic in Egypt are praying God and they are saying Allah. And all the Arab people are understanding God in Arabic is Allah. So now to say Allah is only ours and not yours, where Christian before the Muslims were using Allah in a way, it's just silly. It's just for people who don't know Arabic, to create problems that have no place in our tradition. If you speak Arabic and you say Allah, we say Allah, and for us there is only one God. And your God is our God as long as it's only one God, the Tawheed, which is essential. That's it. So we don't have to create things that are controversy with language and putting us in a situation where it's useless. That's just because we have sometimes an inferiority complex that we want a monopoly on words while we should have trying to have a share on good deeds. So to monopolize the language is not the way. Let us monopolize the good deeds, and then we share the values. Anyway, that's not the point. Let me come to what I wanted to say here. No, by the way, there is something which is a personal fatwa in my talk. You don't clap. Not because it's not Islamic, just because it helps us when you like something to think about it, to take 10 seconds to think about it. Clapping is making you forgetting what you heard. And 10 seconds is making you thinking about what you heard. So now what we have to take out of this, what I said is the last message. The Prophet ﷺ came, and we have to understand that our relationship with God should be a relationship of communication and communicating to Him. To understand that the last messenger, peace be upon him, was sent as a rahmah, which is a mercy. And then we are asked to follow him out of love towards God. If we love God, we follow him. And what is going to happen if we follow him? We are going, insha'Allah, to be loved by him. At the end of the day, it's not only to acknowledge that there is one God, which is essential, it's to love him. And in order to love him is to try to reach a point where what we are doing is helping Allah to love us, is the way we are responding to his call. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu is a call. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu stajibu lillahi wa lirrasul. You have to respond to this call. If you respond to this call, this is the way you are going to be, insha'Allah, loved by him, by following the messenger. This is what the Quran is saying. So follow the Prophet ﷺ, not in a way which is following the rules without understanding the meaning, and loving God in order, insha'Allah, to be loved by him. Our story, our relationship with Allah is a love story. It's a love story. And I can understand anyone in this room saying, I don't get it. What do you mean by this? Because it's not easy. What do you mean? It's a way you will understand now how there is a conversion from the very beginning in the heart of the Prophet ﷺ, when Allah SWT is making him changing the way he looked at things from the very beginning. Now, the lessons for today for us out of this journey following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ is to understand that there were steps. What were the steps that we can take from his personal story and life to our personal story and our community? What are the steps? How can we deal with this? There is another thing which is important from the very beginning. The Prophet ﷺ, before he got the message, he was known as As-Sadiq al-Amin. As-Sadiq, the one who is truthful, it's As-Sadiq. Al-Amin is trustworthy. So he had these two qualities before becoming the messenger, peace be upon him. And this means what? What is the truthful and the trustworthy? In fact, there is something which is very simple, is the qualities and something that started from the very beginning. And this is why he was al-Mukhtar. He was the one who was chosen. He was al-Mustafa, the purified one, for one reason. He was consistent between what he was saying and what he was doing, which is in fact a confirmation afterward coming from the Quran. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. They say what is right and they do what is right. And even in the Quran, Surah As-Saf, we have something which is clear, that even if you have faith, even if you are someone who is saying La ilaha illallah, there are things and situations in your life where you are not going to be consistent. And this is why we have يا أيها الذين آمنوا لم تقولون ما لا تفعلون كبر مقتا عند الله أن تقولوا ما لا تفعلون. Oh, who you believe, who attend to faith, why are you saying what you are not doing? It's something which is big in the sight of God, that you are saying what you are not doing. And this was coming to the Muslims who were following the Prophet ﷺ, who were saying, if the enemies are coming, we are going to fight. And then when they came, they were scared. Meaning by this, that whatever is your level of faith, you are always at the risk of being in contradiction with your faith and principles. And this is life. You are not a hypocrite because you are not at the level of your principle. If your intention is to struggle to get at the level, this is where you are sincere. If you are happy with your contradictions, this is where you start to be a hypocrite. So happy with what I'm not doing, hypocrisy. Struggling against my own contradictions, sincerity. And hoping that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to help us. And this is why, day in, day out, we ask Allah, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. Don't put us astray and make us forget the straight path after you gave us the right understanding, you gave us the opportunity to follow the truth. This is something which is essential for us. It's a state of humility which is the starting point of our faith when we follow Allah, the Prophet ﷺ. So meaning by this, that he is an example because he was going through steps and he was consistent. He was consistent in every step. And sometimes he made mistake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is correcting the Prophet ﷺ to make it clear he is a human being, he is not an angel. The Prophet ﷺ is an example because he is a human being. And he is a human being that sometimes in the worldly affairs, not in what was coming from God, but in the way he was dealing with human beings, sometimes it was possible for him not to choose the right solution in specific situation. And then there is also something which is important in the Prophet's life, ﷺ, is first, steps, second, consistency, and third, the objectives. He knew what he wanted coming from the revelation. The revelation was telling him, these are your objectives. This is what you have to achieve. And for us today, if we want to follow this example, it's quite important first to ask ourselves about the principles, the steps, the consistency, and the objectives. Do you follow? It's clear? You know, sometimes you want good lectures and you hope that the speakers are good. I can tell you that sometimes the speakers want the audience to follow. Okay, and to have a structured mind, not to come here for 1 hour and to be happy and say it was good, come next year. It's really to be deep with this and to take it as something which is a personal message. At the end of the day, a lecture is a personal message, just translating what is coming from the Quran for you in order for you to make it something personal and to make a change in your life. It's useless to come tonight if tomorrow morning you are the same person. So you have to think about how do you use what you hear. It's a responsibility. Now, let us come to the first steps now. What are the first steps? And this is where it's quite important. Very often, and this is the way we are teaching Islam, we come with the last, and myself is the same, you come with the last, chapters in the Quran, surah of the Quran, and it's very easy to get them by heart because we have to know some verses and some chapters in order to pray. So we start with قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, and all these verses that are small chapters. And then you come to this and you think about why, in fact, Allah chose these verses to call the messenger, because in fact they are very deep. They are very deep in meaning, short to get by heart, but deep to understand with your mind and your heart. If you just ponder and meditate the meaning of these first revelations. In fact, they were there to convert the heart and at the same time to change and convert the eyes. Look at all what the first verses, they are all talking about nature and the creation. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ وَالْفَجْرِ is all about nature. Is in fact Allah Ta'ala is calling the Prophet ﷺ by telling him, look around you. What was natural coming every day, Al-Fajr is every day, the sun is every day, Al-Layl is every night, it's something which is coming naturally. And this is the point. The starting point of spirituality is to look at nature and what is natural in a new way. It's to look in a new way. It's to convert your sight. It's to convert the way you look at things. Not to look at nature as if it's natural. Look at nature as if it is a gift. Thank Allah. This is the starting point. And if you don't get this, if you don't get this with your kids, if you don't get this in schools, if you don't get this today, of course, the people who are now using the world, abusing nature, abusing the world, they don't see it as a gift. They see it as a property. Allah is telling you from the very beginning, this is a gift. This is a gift. And say thank you. Min ar-Rahman. This is coming from Ar-Rahman. It's not coming from nowhere. This has a meaning. So you have to understand this. And this is why from the very beginning, إِنَّمَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارُ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبَ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. It's not your eyes that are blind or they are seeing. It's your heart. If you look with the eyes of the heart, you understand that all these elements are gifts coming from Ar-Rahman. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Meaning, look at the Fajr, look at nature. And you are here in Malaysia, you have all this nature around you. And very often we start teaching Islam to our kids by telling them halal, haram, and we don't look at nature. While the Prophet ﷺ was called and everything was changed from within in the way you look at nature, at the way you look at the sun, at the way you look at the moon. It's a relationship with nature which is deepening your relationship with God. This is the starting point, and you will see something that very quickly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about nature but saying they are all signs. And the way you look at the world is a mirror. This is why you have the verse saying, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. We will show them our signs in the horizons and in themselves. And in fact, he will call the heart of the messenger, peace be upon him, by changing the way he look at the world. In fact, the way you look at yourself is mirrored by the way you look at nature. If you are neglecting nature, at one point, you are neglecting your heart. You are neglecting the way you have to educate your heart. It's a complete conversion. And there is something which is important that you will see straight away in the first steps that are coming. That in fact, the first steps of revelation are changing the way the Prophet ﷺ and all the first followers are going to look at ordinary things and people. In fact, the first dimension is natural to have this nature, and then you have to see it as a gift. Now, who are the first people that are seen as ordinary? You don't even see them in your daily life, that are coming to have a central position in Islam. The poor people. Change the way you look at poor people. They are neglected by the powerful, they are celebrated by the believers. Change the way you look at them. So Islam al-Iman is to change the way with your heart. And this is why I keep on repeating, look at this, remember this, that the Prophet ﷺ, who changed the world, was asking the one, Allahumma nas'aluka hubb al-masakin, meaning we are asking you to help us to love them and to be loved by them. You know why? Because the way you are loved by the poor is a sign that you are loved by the one. So this is critical. The first step is to change your sight, is to change the way you look at things. Nature, you are seeing it and forgetting because it's so normal to have it. Look at it. There is Allah's presence. The poor people, look at them. This is the way Allah is testing you. He's testing you. Are you close to the powerful, or are you close to the marginalized and neglected? Are you following the neglectfulness of the society or the requirements of the creator of human beings? This is one. The second, there is something which is very important for the Arabs, that the Prophet ﷺ, he got the first revelation, and the first thing that he did, because he was very fragile. The Prophet ﷺ was fragile in the way he was receiving. He was doubting himself. He was not doubting God, but he was doubting himself. And the first thing that he did is to go to his wife. And this is something which is important. You will see in everything which is connected to the Prophet ﷺ that the way you have to look at women should change. You, the Arabs that are killing your daughters, that are neglecting your wife, look at the way the Prophet ﷺ was dealing with women. The first to help him to face this doubt and understanding, Hunna libasun lakum, they are protecting you, they are your dress, they are protecting you. Women, you don't see them in your society. The Quran is starting with Khadija radiallahu anha, and Zammiluni, Zammiluni, Ya ayyuhal muzammil is connected to his wife. So once again, you don't see them. The Quran is telling you, be careful. Your wife are your companions, and to all the men is making you see them and should be seen in with different eyes. Converting your heart, meaning converting your way. You look, so the poor, so nature, so women in the society, and what else? The Arabs at that time, and this is something that we have to remember, because we can repeat this today, but we are not very much aware of what it means. You know that the Prophet ﷺ was teaching the Bedouins and the Arabs at that time the way they have to be with their kids, with their daughters, and also their sons. The way he was with Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. He was preaching, he was giving the sermon, the Friday sermon, burying his grandson, to show to this community what is the point to claim that you are following Ar-Rahman if you don't show Rahmah to your kids. So your kids that you are not taking care of, that you neglect sometimes, are central in your community. No way to be close to God if you don't care about your kids within the society. And this is why you look at the Prophet's life and you see who were the first to follow him. And Ali karramallahu wajhahu were very, very young. But the Prophet ﷺ respected him because he saw in him the potentiality of humanity and leadership, but he was respecting him before he was a leader, but as a young teenager. That's so important for us today, the way we are looking at our own kids. Very often we wait, and even in our Muslim organizations, you don't know at which age you are going to be considered as potentially leader or potentially able to do something. While the Prophet ﷺ was dealing with very young people, men and women, by the way. He was respecting this, and he was caring and showing. He was kissing his kids and daughters and son in front of the people. Even the Bedouin was telling me, I have 10, I'm not kissing them. And he responded to him, this is rahmah lil-rahama. This is a mercy for the most merciful and the merciful among the people. Meaning that you have to change the way you deal with your society. So to get this iman, this faith, it's to change our way of looking at things and to give meaning to everything, nature, and then add to this, that not only you have to care about your kids, but very quickly the Quran is coming and telling you, you want to go to paradise, you want to be loved by God, there is no way if you neglect your parents. There is no way to be close to God if you are not respecting your parents. And respecting doesn't mean blindly respecting, is loving them with a critical take. I'm not going to come to this discussion now, but it's essential. You can find this in many of the lectures where I'm explaining this relationship with the parents. But وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Meaning, no way. You want to be close to God? Your parents. Your parents are the way to go to paradise in the way you respect them. You have to change the way you deal with your parents as you have to change the way you deal with your kids. And all this is coming from what? This light. This is why Al-Quran, the second name of the Quran after Al-Quran, وَالذِّكْرِ إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرِ is remembrance, remembering people. What is the other name? In-nur. In-nur is light. And what is light is a way you look at things in different way. Al-Quran is light. It's giving you a new light to look at things, remembering you of the essentials. So this is why we have this. Not only it was about this, but the Arabs at that time, and it came very quickly that the Prophet ﷺ was having companions coming from all tribes and own clans and own races. And we all know the story of Bilal. And the story of Bilal is very important, radiallahu anhu. Bilal was a black Muslim. And it's good for the Arabs at that time, as well, by the way, it's good for Asian people to remember, for all of us as Muslims, that inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, the best among you is the one who is the deeper in his God consciousness. It's about a taqwa that we are talking, not about our skin color. And the Muslims up to now didn't get the message. We don't have this message. We keep on repeating that there is no racism in Islam, but we don't give this a very important thing, which is the Prophet ﷺ telling you are all coming from Adam and you are all coming from dust. Get it. Get it. It's in your heart. It's not on your skin. And if you don't get this, you are not changing your eyes. And up to now, sometimes when you are coming from Malaysia, it's very difficult to be close to someone who is coming from Africa. If you come from West Africa, to get someone from North Africa. If now you come from North Africa, it's very difficult to have a convert, because a convert is not really a Muslim. Who is saying this? How come can we say something like this, which is not coming from our religion? So we are developing within our Muslim community racist attitudes that are completely at odds with anything which is coming from Islam. If we are serious about this, our struggle, we need to call for a jihad against racism in the name of Islam. So this is our contribution, and not to nurture it the way we are by saying it's not Islamic and keeping it among Muslims. So this is the way, the first step was to change everything. Look at the world, look at the things that were so natural before, and look at them in a spiritual way, meaning be thankful. Look at things, nature, differences, women, poor people. These are the people you have to care about, and this is the new relationship that you need to have. Having said that, now the second step, with this conversion and understanding that your heart is changing everything, that it's your heart that is seeing. And you know this, even talking about the people who are denying God, Allah in the Quran is saying, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts, they don't understand with their heart, they only understand with their mind. And you know the difference between understanding with your mind and understanding with your heart? Understanding with your mind could lead you towards arrogance. Understanding with your heart is always the condition of humility. You get this? Your heart is the center of humility. Your mind could be the source of your arrogance, which is exactly what was the feature of Iblis in the Quran. أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ, I'm better than him. Rationally, he was right. Spiritually, he was wrong. You get that? If you have to look at the angels, if you could look at the logic, they are always praising God. They are better than us. On rational ground. On spiritual ground, Allah gave us the dignity of freedom and knowledge. And for Him, this is where is our dignity. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. So He was right rationally but arrogant. أبى واستكبر وكان من الكافرين. أبى, he refused. استكبر, he became arrogant. And كان من الكافرين. This is the way towards rejecting God. But the other way is, with your heart, is to acknowledge that beyond rationality, there is something which is coming from God. سمعنا وأطعنا. We heard and we obey. This is the limit of our rationality. You get this? This is the way we need to start our journey. And understanding that then coming after this is the second step, which is important in our situation, is the way we have to behave accordingly. So to behave accordingly is for us not only to acknowledge that Allah is present, our God's presence, and to love Him, as we said, is then to follow the messenger, peace be upon him. So for us is to acknowledge this new way of looking at things. And once again, get me right, it's really based on communication with Allah, trusting Him, loving Him, understanding that everything that is coming from our religion first is a rahmah, not a condemnation. It's a rahmah. It's a call towards something which is good. Bashiru wa la tunaffiru. Bashiru means call people for good news. And the stroll prostrate. So this is the way we have to follow the Prophet ﷺ, and it's a way of life. It's the way the Prophet ﷺ was dealing not only with the principles and the rules, it's the way he was with people. It's to understand the way, the Prophet's way of life, it's to understand the principles, it's to understand al-adab, al-akhlaq. Al-akhlaq means really the way, the behavior of the Prophet ﷺ. إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. You have, the greatest, akhlaq, meaning the greatest ethical characteristic. This is the Prophet ﷺ. He was created with this very specific nature that he had the greatest ethical qualities. And we need to deal with this if we want to follow what he was, the way he was. So not only the Prophet ﷺ was very strict, very demanding with the rules. If you listen, say, بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ. Our religion is just built on 5 pillars. And the Prophet ﷺ was not like some of our new look, Sufi new look of our time, and say, yes, I'm with God 7/7, 24 hours, it's just great. And they don't pray, they don't fast, they are not strict with the rules. The Prophet ﷺ was not only demanding with himself, he was praying, fasting, and not only this. For him, at-tahajjud, praying during the night, was an obligation. And sometimes he was praying the whole night. So much so that the people who were following him, they were not even to follow him. It was too much. And he himself started to pray Taraweeh, and then he stopped, not to make it an obligation for his community. So he was adding. His spirituality was to add, not to subtract. So this is the way he was with the rules, very strict. But at the same time, showing to his community, because he was an educator, not taking the harshest way. You remember he is in Ghazwat Badr, and in Ghazwat Badr he's traveling, and there is a rukhsa. You can, when you are traveling, you can drink and yet you can eat. He was showing to the Muslims that as he himself, as the leader, he was drinking while traveling because this is a permission. And as a Muslim, you should not always choose the harshest way. Islam is not about being harsh. Islam is about being right. And when you don't fast when you are traveling, it's right. So why don't you always go to what is harsh? To think that the harsher it is, the more Islamic it is. We have this wrong understanding of Islam. We have 2 things. When it's against the West, it's more Islamic, by definition, which is just showing how much we don't understand Islam. It's not because we are against people that it's more Islamic. Islam is about the principle. It's right, it's Islamic. It's not right, it's not Islamic. And sometimes the right is in the other, so we can take the right from the other. It's not because we are against that we are more ourselves. It's not because we are against the other that we are more ourselves. This is a wrong logic. One. Second is when it's difficult, is Islamic. No, I'm sorry. So you have people, they start to be Muslim, they don't smile, they don't laugh. It's, this is Islam. I say, well, who told you that this is Islam? This is your own way of trying to cut yourself from your past. But the Prophet ﷺ was smiling, he was joking, he was, when you were in close to him, it was good, you felt good. You are not always trying to say, okay, I'm wrong, I'm right. This was not the Prophet ﷺ. This is the wrong way of being Muslim. Yassiru, make things easy for people. So this is the way, very quickly, it became the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Adding to this, that if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, you can see the way he was dealing with the principle. So, to the people who were following him, he was telling them, as to the principles, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. You have to pray as you see me praying. So follow my rules. This is about rules. Khudu minni manasikakum. You have to follow my rules, and this is the way you have to be Muslim. This is the way we need, this is why we need sunnah. Anyone who is coming to you today, who is telling you, follow the Quran and the Sunnah is not important, you have only one question to ask him or her. Tell me how to pray by reading the Quran. And the discussion is closed. You can't tell me how to pray if I only rely on the Quran, because it's not in the Quran. Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli means you have to rely on the prophetic traditions that are essential for you to know how to pray and how to fast and all the other rituals. So the 5 pillars of Islam are based on the Quran and the practicalities on the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. You can't do without the Sunnah. So all this business about only the Quran, just let the people say things and say, this is not our Islam. Our Islam is based on the Quran, was Sunnah in a clear and strict and demanding way. So this is one. So this is the way the Prophet ﷺ was with the people, very strict and telling them what they have to do. But at the same time, they were following the Prophet ﷺ, and they saw the way he was dealing with the people. The Prophet ﷺ, when, for example, you see him coming to his wife and asking her to protect him, it shows from the very beginning that doubting himself, he needed the human support of his wife. He was fragile and at the same time strong. He was two-faced and she helped him. So you can see here the qualities of the Prophet. This made him a very special human being, because he was dealing and showing to the people how much he was tender. And we know from Aisha radiallahu anha that during Ramadan he was full of tenderness towards her. He was showing this tenderness. This was the Prophet ﷺ. When he was with the poor, a woman, poor woman, old woman, came and took him by the hand, and she took him across the market, and he followed. Because she was a poor and she had a request. He was respecting poverty, and this was the way he was educating. Do you think that he was educating by saying halal, haram, pray and do this and don't do that? No, the way he was with the enemy, the way he was with the friend, the way he was with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the way the people, every one of the companions, they were feeling that he was looking after them, caring for them. This is the way we have to be today. So be careful not to come to the Prophet ﷺ by only stressing on the rules, but also on the akhlaq, on the dimension that are his characteristic and his qualities. When I was asking myself what to do for the next Ramadan, for the Chronicles of Ramadan every day, I was talking with my family, and this came from my wife saying, you might have to stress on the qualities of the Prophet ﷺ. So every day, one quality to say how the Prophet ﷺ was. To understand now, how can we implement this for our time? The way he was full of tenderness, the way he was patient, the way he was courageous, the way he was, loving, the way he was also full of intellectual empathy. This is the way, this is what we have to take from the Prophet ﷺ, in the way he was just but also courageous, he was tender, he was full of compassion. Now, if you get this picture of the Prophet ﷺ, and you come to our time, just to go now to things that we have to do and the starting point of our involvement today and what we can bring to the world with all these teachings and lessons that are coming from the Prophet ﷺ. There is something which we have to start with, which is important in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed his heart and changed the way he was looking at the world and changed his personality, converting him to the one who was responding to God's call from the very beginning. And there is something which is very important, 4 qualities that are here at the starting point. And every one of us here in this room should ask herself or himself, how are they towards these qualities? The first one is confidence. And confidence is not to doubt yourself. It's always good to doubt yourself. But what you should not doubt is La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Is that there is something which is التوكل على الله. التوكل على Allah means to be very serious with this message. This message is coming from the only God to the last messenger, peace be upon him. And we have to nurture this in your heart, is to be confident. Yes, it might be very difficult to deal with your own life. You are facing difficulties and contradictions. This is the fate of every one of us. And sometimes you want to change the world and you understand it's very difficult. It's as if they are, we don't know who, but they are so powerful. And we are so helpless. And we sit down and say, we can't do it. And the starting point is to remember the Prophet ﷺ, he was on his own in Ghar Hira, and he got Iqra, Iqra. He said, I can't, look at this, I can't read. And Allah is telling him, Iqra bismi rabbik, means read in the name of your educator. He was able to read, meaning even if you can't read on your own, with me you can. Even if you think you can't change this world on your own, with me you can. Bismi rabbik. So this is the first attitude, which is sometimes some people are saying, after 20 years you keep on talking and lecturing around the world. Are you not tired? Yes, I am. Yes, it's tiring. And it's not tiring because you are traveling. What is more tiring in traveling is your own community. The Muslim communities are very tiring because you don't know how to please them. You always have someone who is not happy. Even in this room this evening, you have someone and some people, they came to see if I am really good. That's the point. You have people in this room, they are judged before being brothers. So the point is not this, it's tiring, but at the end of the day, you turn again, you go back to Allah and you get this confidence. If you want whatever they want, what you want will prevail. This is the point. So confidence is the starting point. And you understand that he was on his own, and then he had his wife, and then his family, and then he went. And he said, Atawakkalu ala Allah. So Allah is the protector, is the one in whom you have to put your trust. The second thing, which is trust, which is also important. And you need to have something which is important. Your community, I said it right now, it's very, very problematic. It's very al-qil wal-qal. The people are talking, slander, and all this, discussion that you have. You have the feeling that, and still, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. You have to put your trust in this community, because even though there are divisions, even though they are not doing, or sometimes you have the feeling that you are doing exactly the opposite of what we have to do, there is something which is a secret. This community will never come to an agreement on something which is wrong. This is said by the Prophet ﷺ. So there is something within this community, and you can feel it. You can feel it everywhere you go. When there is someone who is coming with strange ideas and trying to play with the community very quickly feels it. There is something which is from within, something which is, so you have to trust this community. It's not perfect, but there is something which is the secret of a link between us, the Prophet ﷺ, and the One. So this is where, as Muslims, you have to come to this understanding and this trust. The third quality is ambition. Ambition means we can do it. The Prophet ﷺ, it's a great mission, by the way, changing the world, and we come here to change the world, to be witnesses. We have to be ambitious. And ambitious means with the help, with Allah's help, with His will, we can change it. So ambitious means we can do it. And I have been talking to so many brothers and sisters in Malaysia, talking about the problems, talking about what is not happening and what should be done and the problems. Still be ambitious. So trusting God, confident with Him, humble as to our power, but ambitious as to the way we have to deal with the world. And the last quality which is important, which is missing very often in our community these days, is courage. The Prophet ﷺ in his life shown to the people, and it's known, even Ali karramallahu wajha and all the companions were saying, very often we were struggling, we were in a battle, and he was the first. And when we were retreating, he was the first to come back. Why? The Prophet ﷺ, he was here to change the world, but when it has to do with struggling and fighting, he was the first. He was courageous. And he said it, أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق أمام سلطان جائر. The best jihad is not to kill, is a word of truth in front of a tyrant. Meaning, ask yourself, it means what? In front of a tyrant, that you are looking for the tyrant to say a word of truth? No, it means, in other words, a word of truth before anyone who has authority and power. Are you courageous enough to speak out, to tell the truth, and to be able to face the people when, for example, they are oppressing and they are killing? This is what means courage. And it means that when you are a parent, when you are a father, when you are a mother, are you teaching your kids, when they are facing the teacher, to respect the teacher as long as the teacher is just? But if you see that the teacher is oppressing or unjust with your fellow student, you have to speak out. Do you tell them to be the first and to shut up? Or do you tell them, be the first and speak out for justice? Ask yourself, because it's very easy to be good Muslims, but at school, we want your marks first. And forget about the last. Don't show solidarity in schools, because, and some are coming to me and say, the system is so demanding that we are pushing them. I'm sorry, if at the end you are the first in school and you have no courage, no way of speaking out, I think there is something which is missing in your education. And this was not the way of the Prophet. This is where we have to contribute to the world. Now, having said that, let me come very quickly to 3 or 4 points that I want to make, coming to my conclusion, because I promised to stick to my time, and as I am following, I'm still within my time, but not for too long. Second thing that we have to remember. So these are qualities that are the starting point. And then comes something which is important. We need to connect. The way we deal with the Tawheed, the very specificity of Islam is La ilaha illallah. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. There is nothing that you can compare to him. He's the one, and you believe in him, and you are trying to be close to him. This is our journey in our life, is to be close to him, to love him and to be loved by him. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. If my servant is asking you about me, I am very close. I respond to the call of whom is calling me when she or he calls me. So this is the relationship. This is what we want. Having said this, which is the relationship, we need to connect this with the values. And you can see in Islam that the oneness of God is based on something which is the unity of humanity. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. All you people, mankind, all you are all the same. You came from the same source. So there is one God and one humanity. So the point is, don't come with an understanding of Islam which is we are different from. No, we come with one God, and one God is telling us this is one humanity and we are all equal. And the best among you is the God conscious, is the one who is deep in his or her faith. But the point is, you need to come with humanistic values, not to talk always about the differences, and to understand that what is coming from Islam is the values that are celebrated everywhere, if only we understand. So when I'm talking about this, it's the way we understand, the way kunu rabbaniyin. You have in your humanity to be close to Allah, to be imbibed by what is the message of the Quran and the message of the Prophet ﷺ. And on this, this is the way we need to deal with the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not telling us, forget about humanity and forget about this life. No, it's all about balance. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Don't forget your share of this life. This life, it's important. You need to find your way in this life. Well-being, feeling good, having a family, having joy. Sometimes it will be sadness, but your life is your life. You have to care about your life, and you have to care about humanity. Don't come with this obsession. It's only about the hereafter. That's not true. Islam is feel good here with your principles and prepare yourself for the next life. So this is something, لا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا. So take your share of this life. So this kind of sacrifice, it's all about the hereafter, and if you feel bad here, it's good. No. There is nothing like this in Islam. It's not feel bad here, you will be happy there. Something which was coming from what was said to the poor people in Christianity. If you are poor here, you will be rich there. So accept your poverty here. Nothing like this in Islam. Nothing like this. You have to care about your life and to celebrate this life with the right principles. Celebrate this life with the right principle. So this is what we have to come with, and this is why there are two things that are important to keep it right. The first, there are two concepts in anything that I'm going to say now, never forget them. This is coming from the Prophet ﷺ. El-Khilafah. The Khilafah is not to have the power, the united power of El-Khilafah fil ard, which is giving to humankind, to human beings, is remember. This creation, this nature that now you are seeing in a new way, these are signs and you have to take them as gifts. Remember, you are not the ownership. This is not your ownership. You are not owning them. You are vicegerents. It's something that you are going to be accountable. So this is the first understanding. If we follow the Prophet ﷺ, never think that this earth is yours, that this nature is yours, that your body is yours. One day you are going to be accountable. What have you done with your health? What have you done with yourself? What have you done with nature? Remember this, that you are here to come back to God. This is the first message coming from the Prophet ﷺ. If you want to contribute and to face, for example, the capitalist system, the people who are just caring for money, is to remind them and remember yourself, this is not your property. You cannot destroy the world. You cannot, for the sake of money, forget the principles. This is the starting point of everything. Khurafa fil ard mean this is God's property. And He will ask you what you have done with everything you have. In fact, with everything you have, He will check who you are in the way you dealt with what He gave you for a while. And this is why the second thing that we have never to forget when it comes to the Prophet ﷺ is death. Remember that in the consumerist society, when it comes to entertainment, the first thing that the people want you to forget is that one day you are going to die. This is a scoop. Few days before Ramadan, remember this, one day you are going to die. It means that this life is limited and you are going to be asked about things that you are not the owner, and second, with your own life, what have you done? One day you come back to Him. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. You will come alone. You can't come and you say, Father, can you respond to this question? Mother, you were responsible. You, my son, say something. No one. You want to go to your father, ask him for hasana, he will say, no, this is mine. Even your father is going to say, I'm sorry, it's too late now. Your mother, too late. Your son, too late. Your daughter, too late. Your brothers and sisters in Islam or in humanity, everyone is coming back alone. So you have to remember, vicegerency, al-khilafa wal-maut. And remember that the Prophet ﷺ was asking Allah something which is essential for us. If we want to have a good life, never forget that you are going to die. If you want to have a good life with God, never forget that you are going to die. Allahumma dhakkirna bil mawti kulli sa'a. Oh God, remind us with our own death every hour. Not as people who like death, but not people who not avoid thinking about their own death, in order to come back to life in the best way. Not to forget their share in this life, but not to be neglectful in the name of their share of the meaning of life. You understand this? It's just not to forget your share, but not to be driven to forget the very meaning of life in the name of your share and what is good in this life. Now, with all this, you understand that this is the way you have to be equipped. This is the way every one of us in this room has to ask her or his heart, I'm getting it right. Am I understanding the very meaning of khilafah with my own body, with my own health, my own children? Your children are not yours. One day they are going to leave. One day they are going to say, Salamu alaikum. One day they are going to tell you it's over, about the relationship that you had, and you have to go to a next step to understand that I helped you to walk and now you are walking alone. The only thing that I'm asking you, don't forget the one who taught you to walk. Never forget. Never forget that. But this is life, and people are leaving and people are coming. So khilafah and the remembrance of death are essential. Now, if you come with this to all what we have to do, so let me just bring to the fore some of the dimensions where we have to work with all this. If we are serious about all this background and we understand what we are, what is expected from us as Muslims. The first thing which is important, and I said it, to connect Tawheed, La ilaha illallah, with the oneness of humanity, and that we are understanding that all the people and our message is for all the people equal before the one. And that we have to do is to spread the message. The first thing that we have to do, and we have to reassess this, our contribution to our world is to understand there is no humanity without education. Education is central. Ar-Rabb, as I am mentioning this in the book on the Prophet ﷺ, the messenger, Ar-Rabb is in fact the roots of التربية, which is the educator. We translate this into English by Lord, but in fact is the supreme educator, الرب. And then what we have to do when it comes to this understanding is really to get it right, is our education. If we understand the first steps with the Prophet ﷺ, the first education the Prophet ﷺ had was to change his sight, to change the way he was looking at things by getting the meanings. The way we have to educate in our schools, the way we have, not only the Islamic schools, but in everything, when it comes to our Islam and when it comes to life, is to stress on meanings and not only on rituals. So if we want to spread the message and the right understanding of the message, this is where, as Muslims, we have to understand that there is al-ilm, which is knowledge, but there is al-fahm, which is understanding. We need to connect al-ilm wal-fahm, is knowledge and understanding. And we get the right understanding, and sometimes it's a deep understanding, is al-fiqh. Al-fiqh doesn't mean at the beginning law and jurisprudence. The very meaning of fiqh is deep understanding. And this is what we need to nurture in our education. And there is another step with this, which is al-furqan, discernment. And discernment is something which is very spiritual. It's sometimes to look at things and to understand the very meaning. And these are levels. You know that in our knowledge in Islam, there are levels. And we need to reach the highest level. سِيمَاهُمْ فِي وُجُوهِهِمْ مِنْ أَثَرِ السُّجُودِ. Allah is telling us about the people who are praying that there are signs in their face. It's not just this, thing that you see because people are praying. This is just a visible, superficial thing. It's a nur, which is the light in the faces of the people. We have to go at that level. So when you get this, you think about education now, and we need to make it clear in all our societies, we should be, as Muslims, and our contribution to the world is to make it clear. Our education is not only to master the know-how. Our education is about the meanings of things, the ends, the objectives, al-ilm al-nafi', the useful knowledge. Wherever we are, we should look at all the systems of education and take from all the systems what is good in the systems when these systems are talking about meaning, about celebrating the personality of the children, not only putting them in a situation where we have to add knowledge to knowledge to knowledge to be efficient and getting the best marks. This is not the systems that we are celebrating as Muslims. So we need to be at the forefront of everything which is innovative in the educational field. And to make it clear to all the governments, the Malaysian governments, as well as all the Muslim majority countries if you don't invest in education, and not in the education to have efficient citizens, but to have dignified citizens, you are destroying the world and destroying the future of humanity. We have to be at this level. And as citizens, you as fathers and mothers in your daily life, to be at the forefront of education is central to deal with everything. With the media now, we are under pressure because the media are sending images every day in, day out, thousands of images. We don't know how to deal with all these images. Our brains are not equipped to face this flow of images. How are we going to do this? We need to be equipped. It's a question of education. It's a question to protect with knowledge, not to protect with ignorance. And very often in our communities, we think that because we are not talking about this, it doesn't exist. And that's not true. Education is not to ignore things, it's to talk about them. When you go now in internet, what is the best and the most successful industries on internet today? 37% of the money that is done and produced on internet is coming from pornography, sexuality. And we keep on not talking about it, and we think that because we are not talking about it, our kids, our communities is protected. But this is the protection of the foolish people, the people who are foolishing themselves, that are not looking at the reality. If we want to be at the forefront of how we deal with this, we have to tackle the issue. How can we have an efficient education that is helping ourselves and our kids to deal with this, to face it, to control this in a way which is helping them to have more dignity and not to do as if we don't see the problem. We are in a state of denial in our community, and many of our brothers and sisters, among you, the young and the not so young people, are just denying the reality of how much it's difficult to be equipped and to face the challenges of our time. And if we want to be the best community among human beings, we better come to this. We better come to this reality and challenge it by knowing what we can do in this society, in this facing the new challenges of our time. So this is something which is so important. The second field, I have two more and then I am finishing, okay? Or 4 or 5, I don't know, let's see. Are you working tomorrow? Yes, I'm not, alhamdulillah. So this is where we have to be involved in this, and we have to be involved in everything which has to do with knowledge. And as we keep on repeating in education that in the past time, in the Middle Ages, we were very great in astronomy, architecture, and science. And many people among you here are very skilled, and they are very much at the forefront of, these new sciences. But very often, they give their skills and their competence to industries, to institutions, and they are not coming back to their community. So it's a lost knowledge for the Muslims today, because we are bringing this to the people who are paying more. So sometimes we need also to take some, to have a sense of priority. Where are we putting our knowledge and our competence and our know-how? Instead of going to the West because they are paying more, sometimes we have to think about in which way I'm useful here, in which way I'm useful in my society, in which way I can be creative with my knowledge, and to add knowledge to knowledge. In all the sciences, we have an inferiority complex today when it comes to knowledge and science, and we have to reconcile ourselves with a sense of, as I said, ambition and confidence and adding ethics to the science. For example, I was talking to what we are trying to do with the Center on Islamic Ethics is really to face the sciences at the level they are now, and to say we have something to say as Muslims when it comes to the ethical ground. What are the ends of knowledge? What are the ends of science? And this is where we are asking about the ends of education, the goals and aims of sciences. This is why we have to be involved in this discussion. Where are the Muslims in this? And this is where the Prophet ﷺ, when he was talking about education, changing the way you look at things, this is the example that we have to take, and to have exactly the same intellectual and spiritual attitude today when it comes to education. There is something else which is coming from the Prophet ﷺ that we have now to be also very, very committed. There is something which was clear for him, is this human brotherhood. When he came and when he started to set the society in Medina, he said to the Jews, لَكُمْ مَلَنَا وَعَلَيْكُمْ مَعَلَيْنَا. You have the same rights and the same duties as us. وَأَنْتُمْ مِنْ أُمَّتِنَا. You are part of our people. And the people of dignity, of justice, this is where, as Muslims now, we need to serve our Muslim community and our principles as Muslims by serving humanity. Why are we so upset? Why we serve only our people? That's true that we have to serve our people, but there are principles that are so important. Today, for example, it's important to show solidarity with all the people who are suffering and facing natural catastrophes and suffering oppression. We are not distinguishing between Muslims and non-Muslims when the people are victims. A victim is a victim beyond her or his religious affiliation. We are on the side of the poor, we are on the side of the oppressed, because this is the way the Prophet ﷺ was. If you touch one of the people who are under my protection, it could be a Jew or it could be a Christian, I will come with an army to protect him or her. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ was, and in 2000 12, the Muslims are only talking about the Muslims who are marginalized and oppressed. This is not our religion. We are in the name of justice, whatever or whoever is victims. The Quran in Surah An-Nisa is coming with 8 verses, telling the Prophet ﷺ that one Muslim was trying to betray the Prophet ﷺ by telling him, the Jew is guilty and I'm innocent, and the Muslim was guilty and the Jew was innocent. The Quran is coming to rectify this by saying to the Prophet ﷺ that this is wrong. So when a Jew is innocent, he is innocent. And when a Muslim is guilty, whatever is your religion, you are guilty and you have to be accountable and you have to pay for that and you have to be judged. This is the way we are universal. Our singularity of Muslims is not to differentiate between victims. Tell me your religion and I will tell you if I am going to help you. Not only we don't do this, not only we don't help the non-Muslims, sometimes when it comes to Muslims and non-Muslims, by the way, like in Palestine, we are scared. We don't show solidarity. So our contribution is to look at the Prophet ﷺ. One woman was in trouble because she was wearing headscarf, and they came to her and they took off her khimar, her headscarf. And he didn't accept this. You are doing this to one woman, you will see, I have an army. This is consistency and courage. Many of the Muslim brothers say, okay, we'll see. We'll talk about it later. No courage, just words, not standing up for what is dignified when it comes to the religious principles and when it comes to dignity and when it comes to solidarity. So this is where, in this society, even here in Malaysia, it's dignified. I'm sorry to tell you, it's dignified, even when your government is doing things that are wrong, to stand up and to say, with all due respect, in the name of dignity, in the name of my citizenship, I disagree with what you are doing with some people who are today in jail under hunger strike, and they are in jail not knowing why they are in jail. And the Muslims that are calling for good citizenship are not talking. No. You don't clap, you stand up and you do something about it. It's easy to clap because we are saying this. We have to stand up for the rights of the people. It's easy to say, look at the Americans, what they are doing in Guantanamo. And what about you, who are silent when things are happening? And it's not against your country, by the way. It's not against the government. It's in the name of justice and in the name of what is asked to a human being to do when he or she is understanding what is the example of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is the way we are contributing to the world, by being also self-critical, consistent. You remember I spoke about consistency? This is it. This is the consistency that we need to get within and abroad, and to speak out, not only for the Palestinians. The Palestinians are oppressed and this is not acceptable. The Tibetans are oppressed and it's not acceptable. It's not because China is a big market that we have to be silenced. It's not money that is making justice. Justice is justice even against the powerful. And it's not the market that should decide if we speak out or not. So, which is the kind of courage that we have today? We want to teach the people about how great is Islam, but we are not so great as Muslims. This is the point. So we need to come with this confidence, trust, courage, and ambition, as I was saying. Quickly to end, we have also to deal with 2 or 3 other challenges that are so important. And nature, it's important. I told you the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed the way the Prophet ﷺ was looking at nature. And this is where are we in the discussion about global warming? When the Prophet ﷺ is saying, if someone has a plant in his hands and it's the end of the day of judgment is coming, and he or she has the time to put it and on earth and just to protect it, before the call, before the end, before the day of judgment, just do it, just to show that you are respecting nature. When you are dealing with animals, you should not make them suffer. You cannot kill an animal in front of another. Now today, our obsession with halal meat is only, did we say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar? the way we are treating animals, the way we don't care about nature, the way we are absent from all the discussion about global warming. Global warming is, in fact, clearly human beings not being aware of what khilafah means. That it's not your property, you cannot destroy nature. So we have to stand up and to say, this is not our property. We have to give it to our kids afterward, and it has to be respected. We cannot accept this. But where did it start? It started in your daily life, in the way you eat, in the way you drink. Many people are just very good with good principles in the way they eat, they don't care. Some of you, they are eating half of their plate and even leaving their kids, their daughters and their son doing the same. I'm sorry, what is in your plate, you eat it till the end. Because we don't waste in Islam. It doesn't happen. You want to eat this, you will eat it till the end. And we have to respect what is given to us. But because this is khilafah, this is what we show respect towards the Creator. And once again, I always make fun of the way, even in Malaysia, very often the American way of life is Islamized. We are Islamizing a way of life. We want to drink and to eat fast, and we put halal meat, halal fast food. I'm sorry, in the West or in here, this is wrong. In Islam, when you care about creation, fast food by definition is problematic. Take your time when you eat. Say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and take your time. To eat fast is not to eat well. And I'm not sure it's halal. It's a personal fatwa. Anyway, I think that we have to think about these things. This is where we are contributing. You know what it means when we are fasting for 1 month, just to send a message to the world. This is the month which is the more practice in the world, months of Ramadan. It's a resistance to consumerism. This is the way we have to contribute. It's a school for all the people, to show them in which way we should to prevent ourselves from eating too much, eating too fast. We take time, we take the night. No, we are doing something which is completely different. I keep on repeating the problem with the Muslims today. They are sitting down, they are joking about Christmas, saying, look at Christmas with the Christians. They are making it a cultural festival. They are bringing gifts and they pay, and this is what they are doing. There is nothing spiritual. I'm sorry to tell you that we are on the edge of doing the same with Ramadan. We are eating too much during Ramadan. If I can give you just an advice for the coming Ramadan, please, at the time of the Maghrib, just few things to eat and just eat less. Compare what you are eating during Ramadan with what you are eating now. It should be less. You eat less and you think more. No, not you eat more and you sleep more, as some are doing. They have a very special Ramadan. They sleep during the day and they eat and eat again during the night. No, it's a philosophy of life. It's the way we are caring about nature, the way we are caring about consumerism. This is the way we are teaching ourselves and teaching people. It's a school, it's a way of life. We have to think about it as something which is important. The last thing that I wanted to raise here is about culture. And you know, we have a world culture, it's all about music. Some people are saying music is haram and all this business. I responded to this before by saying not all the music and not all the songs are haram. There is something which is open for us for more creativity. But please, you are Malaysian people, you live in this region. What is coming from us? Look now, if I'm coming from Europe and I look at what you are producing in arts, in culture, in creativity, what could you bring me as something which is specific to you? What are the Asian Muslims producing in matter of creativity in all these fields that are poetry, literature, architecture, arts, expression, imagination? Where are you? Where do you want? You want only Islamic songs? You put some Arabic words and say this is Islam? I'm sorry, where is your creativity? Where is your culture? You want to resist the Western culture? What we call globalization now is the other name for Westernization. Are you resisting? Are you producing something? Where is your creativity? Some of you have skills. They write in many languages, and you write well, and you have imagination, and you are creative. Islam is about the word that was here, being creative. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ, you remember the way he welcomed the poet? There was two kinds of poetries. People who were attacking the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't want them. But people who were celebrating beauty, he wanted them. He himself was talking in the way which was beautiful. Few words, but with deep meaning. He was talking beautifully. The Quran is beautiful. Allah is beautiful and He likes beauty. Allahu Jamil yuhibbul jamal. Where are we? Culture is essential because it's the way you feel good. The Prophet ﷺ, even with al-adhan, you know al-adhan is beautiful if we know how to read it. Because sometimes some are destroying al-adhan. So the Prophet ﷺ was asking Bilal, arihna, just call, because we like it. Read the Quran, we like it. We like this beauty. This is Islam. And we need to have time to rest, time to entertainment, time to celebrate imagination and لا تنسى نصيبك من الدنيا. Don't forget your share in this life. That to feel good is halal. To smile is halal. To laugh is halal. All this has to be repeated. Make it something which is a contribution. Ethical entertainment. Ethical arts. This is where the Muslims should be. Not to disappear and then to say, you don't have to listen to music, and all the kids, they are going to internet and they are listening to music, and we are in a state of denial. We are silently colonized, and this is not acceptable. So I think that this is where, as Muslims, we have to come to this. And my conclusion is, with all this dimension, all our contribution in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ is to come to something which, all what I was saying here, I hope that you understood through what I was saying, that I don't want to put us all together, not only you, but all of us, in a state where we feel guilty and helpless and that we cannot do anything. My main concern this evening in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, in the way we have to contribute to the world, is really to start with, we are responsible and we can make it. فَلْنَتَوَكَّلُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. We rely on God and we can make it. It's possible. Don't nurture this victim mentality. Don't nurture this sense of guilt. I cannot make it, and if I'm like this, it means that Allah doesn't love me. Let me tell you something. Anyone in this room who is facing problems, who is facing contradictions, who is facing trouble, internal trouble, the sin, ما حاك في نفسك وكرهت أن يطلع الناس. When the companion comes to the Prophet ﷺ and asking about the sin, he said, what is in your heart, and you don't want the people to know about it, and it's troubling your heart. Everyone here has something like this. But I can tell you something. The fact that you are here this evening, the fact even that you are asking yourself, is God loving me when I'm like this? The only fact that you are asking the question means that God is close to you. If you were far from Him, you wouldn't even have the question. The only fact that you are asking you the question, is God loving me? It means there is still love. He's still not far from you. The fact that you are aware that there is something wrong, that you are not far from what is good. You get that? This is the way the Prophet ﷺ was teaching. If you are asking the question, it means that Allah is within the question. He's close to your conscience. And this is where we have to start. Not to come here with a sense of guilt, we are not doing it. No, with a sense of responsibility. You have the question, so now you have to stand up. To act against your own sense of guilt. To act against your own sense of victimhood. To act against your own sense of helplessness. And to start the journey. To stand up and to say, I can do it. Atawakkalu ala Allah, and I can do it. This is something which is the starting point. And you know something? That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is questioning you about your own harmony and your own contradictions, it means that He still loves you. And our message in Islam is very much about this love. It's very much about, you know, that it's about love and remember something. Learn to forgive yourself. Not in an easy way. Not in an easy way as some people are doing. They do all the bad things and once a year they go to pilgrimage and say, Allah forgive me for the past, and they start when they come back. That's not what I'm saying. It's, remember that if you are sincere, as it's coming from the Buddhist tradition, by the way. You know, the Buddhist tradition is talking about compassion, and compassion is rahmah. They are always saying something which is very true. Start with yourself. Be full of rahmah towards yourself first. And you know, when you are making dua, you always have to start with yourself. Not because you are selfish, because when you are saved, you are able also to be full of connection and compassion with the others. So you start with yourself, because one day you are going to be alone and you ask for others. And when you are, you know, flying, what are they telling you in security advice? When you have to take anything, to save first yourself and then even your kids, but you first. Because this is something which has to do with our salvation. So get it right, not to get out of here with a sense that I cannot make it, I'm far from this. No, if you are here, if you are listening to this, if there is this question about your own consistency and your own life, it means that there is love. It means that you need to learn to forgive, and to forgive to yourself. And also, you know, one of the conditions of a tawbah is to remember that if you come to Allah and you ask Him, if you are sincere, He's going to remove everything. It's as if you are born again. قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَصْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. God is removing. If you don't associate someone to God, He can forgive you. Everything that you have done, everything of your past, if you come with a sincere heart, a sound heart, He can forgive you. So it's based on this love, it's based on this trust, it's based on this forgiveness. And in our community, start by doing this with your brothers and sisters. Spread around forgiveness, rahmah. Kunu ruhama, ruhama bainahum. This is the descriptions of the believers. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ was with his own companions. He was forgiving them before judging them. Even the hypocrites, he was very scared to say about someone that he was an hypocrite, because he knew it's too heavy. This is not something that you have to do. So as Muslims, we need to come with this rahmah. We started with ar-Rahman. We started, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِرَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Now we end with this very word, which is central in our tradition, is to start with our responsibility to be full of rahmah. And please, when you meet people who are not Muslims, and when you meet people who are Muslims, they are not having a life that you would like them to have. You yourself, you know that you can be better. Start with this. Start by welcoming the questions before judging the behaviors. Welcoming the quests before judging the wrong path. This is where you are Muslims. This is what you have to bring to the world. Bring rahmah. During the months of Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ was expressing more rahmah and solidarity and caring about people than during the year. We should get this as a school for us to be with humanity with a way which is, we respect who you are, even though we disagree with what you are doing. We got the message coming from the Prophet ﷺ and coming from the Quran. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. There is dignity in your being, even if there are indignities in your behavior. There is dignity in your being, even if there is indignity in your behavior. And this is where we have to start as Muslims, to be the people who are bearing witness to the message before people. Get it for yourself, get it for the people. And the point is, with all what we are doing in the footsteps of the Prophet, this could be the contributions: education, nature, solidarity, justice. And don't forget, in any way, and I keep on repeating this, and you will see this during the months of Ramadan, take good care of yourself. Meaning, in this life, take time for your heart, take time for your mind, take time for your body, take time to meditate about yourself, and tell the people you love that you love them. This is very important to spread love in our community. Don't take it for granted. It's not because you love that it's known that you love. Love always needs repetition. You have to repeat and to say it again. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ was teaching his companion. He said, I love this one. He told him, did you tell him? He said, no, go and tell him. I love you. I love you. And just to avoid any kind of misunderstanding, you add, I love you for the sake of Allah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Tariq Ramadan, for sharing your wisdom. And special thanks for doing it in English this time. Because as we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed the Swiss with the ability to speak several languages, including German, Italian, French, Portuguese, which I'm sure you speak as well. Alhamdulillah. This brings us to the question and answer session, inshallah. A couple of rules. Please keep your questions brief and to the point. Please state your name, country of origin, and university or institution you're from. There is only one question allowed per person so that we can be fair and just and get a good deal of questions covered, inshallah. I will be taking 3 questions. I'll do the whole round for the 5 mics. I'll take 3 questions and then we'll get them answered and then we'll move on, inshallah. So let's start off here. The sister in the green hijab.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Professor. My name is Nur Afifa. I'm from Malaysia. I graduated from this university last year. The question, because you just spoken about it a few seconds back, about tolerance and how it is important for us to understand differences between people. But I have a personal question, which is firstly, is there a difference between moral imposition / religious imposition and preventing evil? And secondly, to what extent...
Say it again.
Oh, sorry. Is there a difference between religious and moral imposition and preventing evil? And secondly, to what extent is the responsibility of us Muslims in preventing evil, considering the fact that what we see as evil may not necessarily be seen as evil in the eyes of others? Because it is quite difficult sometimes to turn a blind eye, but it's also very difficult to judge people just based on what they do. Thank you very much.
Right, Jazakallah. The brother in the white shirt, inshallah, please go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nur Hisham. I'm an individual working. I just have a question for you, Professor Tariq Ramadan. Are we allowed to have or to vote for a non-Muslim as a ruler, a just non-Muslim, as a ruler for majority in a Muslim country? If yes, then could you just kindly define to us what is the definition of just that we are looking for? Thank you.
All right, Jazakallah khairan for that question. We move upstairs. Do we have people upstairs? We have a brother in the red shirt.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Lutfi Torla. I'm from Malaysia, and I'm a Masters of Engineering student in this university. My question is, you said just now that on the one hand, the Prophet wasn't always serious. He enjoyed time with his family and friends, and he smiled and laughed as well. But on the other hand, you said also well that in the context of death, entertainment is sometimes seen as a waste of time. In that case, then do you have any good rules of thumb to determine what a good balance, what a good compromise of entertainment is between enjoying yourself as well as not really wasting time? Also, if you have some extra time, could you also tell us in all your travels, what has been the hardest thing to change in Muslim communities that you've been to? Thank you.
I know. Can you just summarize the second question?
The second one was, the first one was about compromise of entertainment. And the second one was, in all the lectures and all the places that you've been to, I'm sure you've seen a lot of Muslim communities. What has been the hardest thing to change within those communities?
The differences?
The differences?
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
One of the ones is, what is the hardest thing to change in Muslim communities? The second one is, we sometimes go for entertainment, and that is not seen as bad in Islam. But on the other hand, it can also be seen as a waste of time. So what should be the compromise?
All right.
Okay.
Dr.
Thank you.
Tariq, if you could address those, inshallah. The first one being on, from Sister Noor, about moral versus religious imposition and preventing evil when others might not perceive it to be so.
Okay, so the first question is about the ethical imposition. This is it, the source of ethics, in fact. If it comes from religion, if it comes from something else. Right. Look, we have to be quite clear on this, that there are principles that are coming clearly from our religion, and there is a source of ethics coming from Al-Quran wa Sunnah. And for us, this is the source. The main source of our ethical teaching and ethical framework is, of course, coming from the Quran wa Sunnah. And for example, you will have the prohibitions are clearly stated in the Quran, that we don't drink alcohol. So some other religion or some other philosophies of people, they can see that this is good for people. We have a clear prohibition. Now, it's also clear that some of the ethical requirements that are in the Quran and the prophetic traditions are going to be similar to what we find in the other religions and even other philosophies, when it comes to justice, when it comes to dignity, when it comes to equality, with sometimes some differences in different grounds. But we should not, in the name of our specificity, deny the fact that we have similarities. And we need to understand when it is specific to Islam and shared with others. And many of our principles are shared with others. Now, you were saying something about what is considered sometimes as evil by Islam is also telling us that there are some behavior that we don't accept. And we have limits on this. Some could say it's natural, we accept this. And very often I was asked here about some behavior when it comes, for example, to homosexuality, and some in the society as this is natural. No, in Islam as well as in Christianity, in Judaism, in Buddhism, homosexuality is not accepted. This is not a right behavior. So we are, and we have the right to say, according to our ethics, this is not acceptable. We are not agreeing with this behavior. Now, we are dealing sometimes with people who are advocating it, and in their private life, this is the way they are. And I keep on repeating to Muslims, wherever you are, you should repeat something which is clear. We respect the people, we disagree with their behavior. So we respect your being as a human being, because we know that there is dignity of your being, and we respect who you are. We disagree with what you are doing, and this is not for us acceptable, and this is our freedom to be able to say this. So this is where we should be clear on some references, and not in the name of being open-minded to forget all the principles that we may have as Muslims. Now, when it comes to a majority Muslim country, and this is also something which is quite important, Umar ibn al-Khattab, and it happened also during the Prophet's time, but it's clearly a fact that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when he was to decide who was to be in charge of a specific task within the community, was choosing people who were not Muslims, and he was relying on something which was clear. The three conditions for someone when he or she is going to work in a specific field is competence. Do you have the skills? Second, integrity, upright. Are you upright? Are you honest? And third, accountability. You should come back and be accountable of what you are doing. So it means that you can't disappear for 5 years and to be elected and then come after 5 years and you are not accountable. You have a mandate and you have to come back with the substance of the mandate. Now, in some situation, in a Muslim majority country, it can be, in a specific period of time, that the best to lead the country is not going to be a Muslim, and it could be a non-Muslim. So even Ibn Taymiyyah, by the way, some of the Salafi keep on repeating things that are not, they quote Ibn Taymiyyah, and they don't even refer to the fact that he was saying that a just society with non-Muslims is better than an unjust society with Muslims. Meaning by this that Islam is just, not all the Muslims are just, and you have in politics and governance, you have to choose the competence, the skills, the integrity, and the accountability. You are not only looking at the religion. And this is where I disagree with many who are coming from the very narrow literalist Salafi, because Salafi is more than only the literalist, who are saying the wala is you only have to support a Muslim, even though they are unjust. So with the corrupt people in the petromonarchies, we have to support them even they are corrupt. I'm sorry, I'm not going to support these people. These people are not only corrupting the country, they are corrupting the very essence of the Islamic message. And as a Muslim, I should stand up against their corruption. Because this is said in the Quran, وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا فَإِن بَغَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا عَلَى الْأُخْرَى فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِيءَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. Which means, in fact, just to summarize, that if you are facing people who are unjust, you have to stand up in the name of justice in front of the unjust. And these people are mu'mineen, meaning they are believers. They are from the Muslims here in the verse, meaning that you have to stand up. And you know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ telling us, help your brother or your sister when he or she is right or wrong. And one of the companions asked, how could I help him or her when she or he is wrong? And the answer is clear: prevent him or her from doing wrong, which is an active resistance to something which is coming wrong from your brother and sister, meaning that your brothers and sisters are not always going to do right. So sometimes you should go for someone who is more competent, who is upright, who has some honesty and is accountable, and he might or she might not be Muslims in a specific period of time. You deal with this. And sometimes very good Muslims were prevented from getting a job by the Prophet himself, ﷺ. He was talking to Abu Dhar, and Abu Dhar wanted a position. Abu Dhar was very strong against the wrong ruler and the people who were liking money and position. He was very much resisting. But the Prophet ﷺ told him he wanted a position. Ya Aba Dhar, innaka da'if, wa innaha amana, wa innaha yawm al-qiyamati khizyun wa nadama. Telling him, look, by the way the Prophet ﷺ was talking in this very beautiful Arabic, which is in itself showing how much he was connecting meaning and beauty of the way of expressing things. And he was telling him, you are weak, Abu Dhar, and this is a trust, and the day of judgment you are going to be judged, so you are weak. And look at this, he was strong in counter power, weak in power. And sometimes this is the reality. You can be strong countering power, but if you have power, you become weak, and we have to avoid being in power. So this is the answer to this. And about entertainment, that's a very important question, yes, that you have to ask. And it's all a question of balancing. It's not because we are saying that entertainment is halal, because the Prophet ﷺ said to to Hanzala, Ya Hanzala, sa'atan fa sa'a, 1 hour to rest and 1 hour for entertainment, and to pray and 1 hour to rest. Sorry, it's not because he told him this that we have to forget balance. And this is something that every one of us should also, everyone here should also assess. That sometimes you are watching movie and you don't need a mufti to tell you it's haram. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ said to the one who was taking, istafti qalbak, ask your heart. What you are watching, you say it's And the best way to ask if it's halal or haram, it's when you are watching it, if someone is entering, are you still going to watch it? That's a good way to think about it. So this is something, because you know, ما حاك في نفسك وكرهت أن يطلع عليه الناس. You don't want the people to see what is in your heart. So if you are hiding, it means that there is something wrong. So you don't need a mufti here. There are movies that you know it's not good, but there are other movies that are good for your mind, good for you to rest with them, and then you have to find the right, you know, balance here in the way you watch a movie and not too much, in the way you deal with music and the right way of dealing with this. And every one of us here has a very specific challenge and a specific jihad, because every one of us here is different. Some of you, when they start watching one movie, it's very difficult for them not to start watching a second. And some are very disciplined. They watch one and they stop. So this is where you know yourself, you know the principles. It's very difficult to come with a rule, say only this and that. But, you know, to listen to some songs, and some of you, they are disciplined with the way they deal with their own time. So every one of us has a personal jihad, a personal challenge here, and we don't have first to compromise on some principles. The second question, to tell you the truth, I didn't get it. So if you can...
What did you feel was the hardest thing for Muslims in different societies to give up in your travels? When you found
the hardest thing? That's a good question. Because there are many things, in fact. If I have to I would say, I don't know if the hardest things to give up, but what I am seeing everywhere I go is the same psychology that I see within the Muslim communities and the Muslim societies around the world. Is a kind of victimhood and a sense that we can blame the world for what we are doing. And the second thing is, well, one thing that the Muslims are it's very difficult for them to stop this. It's to talk about unity and yes, they are always talking about unity, and they are always sad and disappointed with divisions. Everywhere you go, you will find the Muslims saying, we have to be unified, Islam is about unity, and they complain because we are divided. So to go beyond these divisions is important. And by the way, it's one of the great challenges. Sunni, Shia, within the Sunni tradition, the Salafi, the Reformists, to go beyond these divisions and to come to some agreement. So victim mentality and sense and this obsession about divisions, which is helping this victimhood. We are always victims of people. People are divided, and we, even during Ramadan, we keep on repeating, we don't start Ramadan at the same day, we don't end at the same day, we don't agree even on Ramadan, so we agree on anything, so we complain. The people who are complaining the more about Muslims are the Muslims themselves, in a very negative way. So this lack of confidence, this lack of, okay, now it's us, we have to do the job, we have to work, this is maybe the most difficult challenge that I have seen.
Right. Dr. Tariq Ramadan has a flight tomorrow morning, and unfortunately because of that we're unable to take any more questions because we have to end the session. So I'd invite Dr. Tariq to make dua, inshallah.
Wow. So it's not a long dua. Usually it lasts 30 minutes. Okay, ready? Please, brothers and sisters, Ramadan is coming in few days. So we think about this. We think about ourselves. We think about our heart. We think about the way we have to try to improve ourselves. What I was saying about just a summary through the dua of what was said this evening. And at the same time, never Never forget your brothers and sisters in humanity that are facing difficulties around the world. We spoke about Burma. We have to think about all the people in Syria and Palestine. We also have to think about people in Congo, people in everywhere. There are people who are oppressed, people who are still today in jail, tortured. Our way of talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our dua is always to keep this in our heart. So just to come back to the essential and to end up, and as I won't be able to tell you this afterward, I want to thank you because very often you thank me about the work that I am trying to do, I have been trying to do. So there is a family that is helping me to be the way I am, but there is also a community that is supporting me, and you cannot get it right. You cannot understand this if you don't get the sense of all these people coming and gathering and attending and trying to be better. It gives you strength. And for that, I have to thank you, because we don't thank God if we don't thank humanity and human beings. This is also part of our religion. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم نسألك بأننا نشهد أنك أنت الله الأحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه. اللهم اجعلنا من الموحدين. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين يقولون لا إله إلا أنت لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. اللهم تقبل منا دعاءنا وصلاتنا وركوعنا وسجودنا. اللهم تقبل منا صلاتنا وأعمالنا. اللهم اشرح لنا صدورنا وقو إيماننا ونور قلوبنا بنور الإيمان. اللهم نور قلوبنا بنور الإحسان. فاللهم اجعلنا نخشاك كأننا نراك. اللهم اجعلنا نخشاك كأننا نراك. اللهم ذكرنا بالموت كل ساعة. اللهم ذكرنا بالموت كل ساعة. اللهم ذكرنا بالموت كل ساعة. اللهم استرنا فوق الأرض وتحت الأرض ويوم العرض عليك. اللهم اجعلنا من المؤمنين من المسلمين من الربانيين من المقربين الساجدين الراكعين الصادقين الموحدين. اللهم اجعلنا من المحبوبين. فاللهم نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك والعمل الذي يبلغنا حبك. ربنا لا تضع في جمعنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا شابا إلا هديته ولا ضالا إلا هديته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته. اللهم أنزل علينا سكينتك ورحمتك. اللهم تقبل منا دعاءنا وثبت أقدامنا واجعلنا من الصالحين. اللهم اجعلنا من الصابرين. اللهم ارحم والدينا. اللهم ارحم والدينا ووالدي والدينا. اللهم اغفر لجميع موتى المسلمين الذين شهدوا لك بالوحدانية ولنبيك بالرسالة وماتوا على ذلك. اللهم أكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم اللهم أدخلهم الجنة مع الأبرار والصديقين ورسلك الكرام يا رحمن يا رحيم ربنا أنت الرحمن أنت الرحيم أنت رب العالمين فاغفر لنا وارحمنا وسامحنا واجعلنا من المقبولين واجعلنا من المقبولين ربنا اجعل لنا علما نافعا اللهم اجعل لنا علما نافعا ولسانا ذاكرا شاكرا وقلبا مطمئنا ونفسا يا رحمن يا رحيم مسرورة يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم قو إيمان إخواننا وأخواتنا في سوريا اللهم قو إيمان إخواننا وأخواتنا في فلسطين وفي برما اللهم قو إيمانهم في العراق وفي أفغانستان وفي مصر وفي تونس وفي الجزائر وفي ماليزيا اللهم أنزل علينا وعليهم سكينتك ورحمتك اللهم قو إيمانهم في السجون وتحت التعذيب إنهم مظلومون فانتصر يا رحمن يا رحيم قو إيمان إخواننا وأخواتنا المظلومين وعليك بالحكام الظالمين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام قو إيماننا ثبت أقدامنا واجعلنا من الصابرين وألف بين قلوبنا وأصلح ذات بيننا واجعلنا مؤمنا مسلما في سبيلك اللهم اجعلنا من المؤمنين المسلمين الصابرين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم تقبل منا صيامنا وصيام رمضان اللهم فهو شهر القرآن فتقبل منا قراءة القرآن اللهم تقبل منا قراءة القرآن وقوي إيماننا واجعلنا من عتقاء شهر رمضان اللهم تقبل منا صيامنا وصلاتنا وركوعنا وسجودنا في شهر رمضان وتقبل منا صيامنا وطهر به أبداننا وقلوبنا ونفوسنا أنت الرحمن أنت الرحيم أنت رب العالمين أنت الكريم أنت ذو الجلال والإكرام فتقبل منا صيامنا يا رحمن يا رحيم واجعلنا فيه وبعده من الصالحين الصابرين المؤمنين الصادقين المقربين الربانيين المؤمنين المسلمين يا رحمن يا رحيم وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين
Ameen. Jazakallah khairan for that very touching dua, Dr. Ramadan. I'd now like to invite Brother Hudhaifa, the CEO of One Heart Creative Solution, to present a token of appreciation to Professor Dr. Tariq Ramadan for taking out time and sharing it with us tonight. I'd now like to invite Professor Ramadan to accompany Brother Hudayfa to the VIP room for some refreshments, inshallah. For the rest of us, inshallah, we have upcoming programs in IIUM for all of you to benefit from. Inshallah, the mega star of comparative religion and da'wah, Dr. Zakir Naik, will be in Malaysia in September. His event is poised to be in IIUM on the 29th of September, inshallah. So make sure you're ready for that. Also, for those of you sisters who would like to know more about the female heroes of Islam, you have the Heroes 2 series ongoing in the Moot Court every Thursday. This week, I believe, the topic of discussion is Fatima radiallahu anha. For more details, you can go to themuslimheroes.com. We also have a qira'ah competition where the top qurra of IIUM will battle it out, inshallah, in the reciter, which will be in Ramadan, inshallah. This is your host, Muhammad Kashmiri, signing out, reminding you not to forget to pray Isha tonight. Ramadan Kareem, and please leave the feedback forms on the chairs. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik wa shadu la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.